All right, good Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for hopping on NCSA Live, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or whatever platform you're on. Kyle Winters, one of our recruiting manager.
Recruiting manager.
I almost called you a senior recruiting coordinator. You're
that was
beyond that.
Real slap in the face.
I'm David Kamisek. Thanks for hopping on every Tuesday, as we do here a little after 2 p.m. Central, to educate and talk about the recruiting process. Last couple of weeks we've been very scholarship heavy. We're going to kind of put the bow on that topic here in our kind of third segment of the scholarship process. So last 2 weeks we've been talking about scholarships. If you missed either of those conversations, you can check those out in our recordings here on our Facebook page. But today we're going to get more in depth with what happens once you start getting scholarship offers. Last 2 weeks kind of broke down what scholarships were, how to go about getting them, or the process it takes to get them. So today we're going to really hit on the challenging aspect of when you start getting offers coming in and how to kind of navigate between which ones to say yes to and which ones aren't going to be the right fit for you.
Yeah, that's really one of the biggest misconceptions, is that you just assume I'm going to get the offer from my number one school. It's going to be perfect. It's going to be exactly what I want. And boom, the journey's over. That's it. Done. Recruiting process over. Shut it down. Generally speaking, that's not the case. There's a lot more to go through after that point for a lot of student athletes, especially if you're not getting a full ride scholarship to your number one choice school right off the bat, which the vast majority of student athletes aren't going to be getting that. So for you, it's really going to be incumbent upon you to know what you can do from there. When you get a scholarship offer, what do you do with that? How much time do you have to sit on that? When does a coach need a decision by? Is there ways to use that to your advantage moving forward? How do I get more scholarships? So there are quite a few different aspects to scholarships after just receiving an offer that you can be really thinking about and navigating and using to your advantage to help your bottom line and help your future as well.
Sure. Any questions you guys have, feel free to jot them down there at the bottom of the Facebook page, YouTube, whatever it is that you're watching on, and we'll get to as many as we can here over the next half hour or so. One of the things Kyle talked about, and kind of the first thing we'll hit on, is how to juggle multiple offers, right? You see the high-level kids that have 10, 20, 30 offers, and they're narrowing down their list and cutting down that list. Having multiple offers is a good thing. Obviously, it means you have a lot of schools interested in you.
Correct.
You have some options to choose from, but it can almost be as stressful, if not more stressful, than that part in recruiting when you have nothing going on, when you're trying to figure out, all right, I've got 10 schools that are interested in me, they're offering me scholarships. How do I choose which one of those is for me? And we can't answer that question, unfortunately. That's something you've got to kind of figure out based on your needs. But you were in that situation as a student athlete. You were juggling a bunch of different offers. Walk us through, I guess, your situation.
My own personal situation. I was a baseball player, was recruited very late into my process. It was fall of my senior year, and basically went from not getting recruited at all to all of a sudden being pretty heavily recruited by numerous different schools. And for me, I think one of the main aspects that I was looking for is I wanted a good baseball program, but also scholarships were incredibly important to me and to my family. Those were probably going to be the biggest aspect that I needed when it came to where I was going to go to college, because I wasn't going to be able to have a whole lot of student debt or pay for a school. So I had the 4, 5, 6 different scholarship offers that I had. One from University of New Mexico, Dallas Baptist, Nebraska, Georgetown, to name a couple that were out there. But the best offer that I had was from New Mexico. I had a full ride scholarship offer with them. And what I was able to do is go back to the other school and go back to these other coaches and really have a difficult conversation with them. And as a 17, 18-year-old kid, it is a difficult conversation, but it helps you grow up. It helps you mature really at a young age and get used to conversations you're probably going to be having similar the rest of your life. But I was able to talk through, well, this is what I have in these other situations. This is what this other coach and school and program are able to offer me. Is there anything else that you guys can do to help me out? Because at the end of the day, the scholarship's going to be most important for me. So for you guys as families, that's really going to be the biggest key is what's most important. Yep. Is it scholarship help? Is it the academic fit they have there? Is it the region? Is it the size of school? Those are all the criteria to really consider when you're making that decision.
What was the window of you getting those offers? Like, when did your first one come in? When did your last one come in? Because something that I think you don't think about is you get your first offer, and you probably fall in love with that school because it's the first offer, but then all of a sudden you get a couple more over the next couple months or couple weeks, and it's not a situation where you get 10 offers in one day, and then you can decide between those 10. You may get new schools entering the fray throughout a couple months, and that maybe changes your opinion, or suddenly you're adding a team or adding a school and removing a school based on that. So what was your kind of timeline like in getting those offers?
Yeah, everything, like I said, was very sudden. So it was probably around August or September, probably September of my senior year. I pitched at a showcase at Regis High School out in Colorado, where the University of New Mexico saw me. They were the first school to recruit me in any way, shape, or form, and they invited me out to an official visit, I think maybe within the next week or right after pitching at that showcase and performing very well. I went down for an official visit, and they actually made a scholarship offer while I was there, equivalent to about 70% scholarship or so. I did have some upcoming tournaments and showcases that I was going to be playing in as well. So, they gave me some time to make a decision. They didn't put a clock on me. Signing period was a little bit different at that point. There's a 10-day span coming up in October, I want to say October or November maybe. And so I went and pitched at another tournament maybe 2 weeks or maybe even a month after that or so, and did really well. I had great success against a very good team, very good program, and from there, floodgates kind of opened for me. So this is maybe in the course of 3-4 weeks tops that I got one scholarship offer from New Mexico. They called me back immediately after the tournament and said, we will give you a full-ride scholarship. I had a school and coach after that game, within 5 minutes of pitching, make me a full-ride scholarship, which I don't know the legality behind that.
That's not really common either.
I don't know, that doesn't really happen that often, but I had someone walk up to me and say, I will give you a full-ride scholarship to come to my school, which was unique. And then Dallas Baptist followed up with me after that, Nebraska, Georgetown, like I said, a couple other schools called me almost immediately after this tournament, and my stock really rose. And so again, this is over the course of maybe 3 to 4 weeks, and I was completely overwhelmed. I was not planning for this. I had not planned this. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to have any of these conversations. Thank the Lord, my mom and dad were very helpful in getting me through it. But that's not typical,
right.
I would say, for most student athletes in the recruiting process. It doesn't typically go from nothing and then all of a sudden you have a really high stock. There's a lot of work that it usually takes to get up to that point. Hopefully, you guys are much more prepared than I was.
Yeah, you're the anomaly.
I'm the one-off situation. I'm the exception, not the rule.
Right.
Which is not to give myself any clout.
That's kind of like life in general for you, though. So.
Yeah, I am the exception, and not always in the best way.
Yeah, and talk about that, because I think a lot of families are in that similar situation where finances are going to play a major part in that decision. So you talked about being able to try to leverage your full ride opportunity to other schools. For, again, a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid trying to do that, a family that's going through this through the first time, that's often an intimidating thing to try to do. It is something common. College coaches are used to it, families. So again, don't feel like you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. It's a smart thing to do. It's why having a lot of options and having leverage is helpful for you. Just like if you were leveraging a job opportunity and wanted a higher salary, it's very similar in that regard. Walk me through kind of your process with that. I mean, I'm guessing that wasn't very easy to do, like you mentioned, but also it's something that is smart for student athletes to do. I always say coaches are playing the game. Coaches are trying to get you on their team for as little money as possible. So student athletes and families need to play the game as well to make sure they're maximizing their worth as well.
Yes, and I think you really keyed on something really important, is that student athletes should have as many opportunities as they possibly can. The more interest you can have, the better off you're going to be. And don't feel bad about these conversations. I think you really nailed it in saying that college coaches, they're playing the game on their end as well, that they're going to bring in as many student athletes for as little scholarship money as they possibly can, because they have to.
Right.
That's the way the system works. So for me, it was first probably I cried a lot, just spent a lot of time in the dark under my covers saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to have these conversations. Thankfully, my mom didn't let me not go through with it. She's like, you have to talk with these coaches, you have to have these conversations. You'll thank me for it later. Thanks, Mom. You're right. Dang it, hate when you're right. But you were right, and so she really talked me through it. She coached me through it and say, just explain to them this is the situation, and ask them what they can do to help out. And I remember sitting at our kitchen table with our corded phone hooked up to the wall, cords all in a knot, and me probably twisting them and fiddling with them and saying to the coach, hey, I have this really great opportunity at this other program where I'm going to be able to get all of my school paid for, and it's a $25,000 school. I'm really leaning that direction because that's a great opportunity. My family, we don't have a lot of money. We're not a wealthy family, barely afford to go to these tournaments I was playing at, if we could afford to do it at all, probably not. So is there anything else you guys can do to help out in getting closer to that? And the coach was understanding. He said, yeah, let me go talk. Let me go talk to my people. He went to the admissions office. He went to the AD or wherever he needed to go to, and he was able to give me more scholarship money. They were able to do it. They were able to offer more money because I just had a plain conversation with them. In the end, they weren't able to meet the 100% offer. It was like 99%, which is maybe a little petty of me, but
that 1%,
that
yeah.
1%, that $1,000, that was a difference maker. So I ended up choosing the school that was the full ride scholarship offer, and really that kind of helped me. It was good. It was good leverage for professional baseball too.
And then you didn't.
And then I didn't go to that.
You got drafted in the 5th
Then
round.
I got drafted, and
Had to deal all that stress for nothing.
but it was great. It was great, leveraging material
Yeah.
for that as well. Like my agent could go to the professional scouts and say, well, he has this full ride scholarship.
Right.
What are you guys going to do to opt him out of this professional scholarship that's worth $100,000 or whatever it may have been? So I had a bunch of school that they would pay for thrown on top of my signing bonus and my contract and all sorts of stuff like that. So, I mean, just in life in general, it's about leverage.
Sure.
You need it, it helps.
You said that you didn't have necessarily a time frame in terms of when you had to make that announcement, but that's not always the case. I think what's important to realize is Kyle was offered by these schools, and they weren't just offering you, right? They were offering a number of other pitchers, I'm sure, if that's a position that they needed, right? So I think that's something that families deal with when they're in the middle of this process is they get that offer and they maybe feel that pressure to have to make a decision sooner than later. Maybe the coach is putting that pressure on them. Maybe it's just realizing that, hey, you're one of 10 point guards we've offered, and the first person to say yes is who we're taking, and the other 9 were taking back that offer. So the time frame of how long you have to make that decision can vary, and that's where I think the earlier you can get a start on this process, if you can start getting offers your junior year, which is doable, it's easier to kind of have that period to make that versus trying to cram it all into a 2-week window.
Yeah, part of the difficulty for that was that I was noticed and identified as a prospect so late into the process that those coaches, they didn't have any scholarship money left.
Yeah.
There wasn't much they can do to help me out as far as like paying for school because they had already brought in essentially probably most of the prospects they had in my graduation class. So I had the deadline of signing period, which was where I had to make that decision by, which was maybe another month or so after that, maybe just a couple of weeks after that. But yeah, that's definitely something to keep in consideration is that the further that you wait, the longer you get into this process, the more competition you're going to have. And coaches have to make these decisions by a certain point as well. So the longer that you wait in taking these steps, the longer that you put off actually getting recruited and identified and communicating with coaches, having these conversations, the more this pool gets larger with student athletes and the more they start funneling student athletes like maybe you out of their final list.
And I think too, again, Kyle was mentioning he wasn't getting full rides. Again, the majority of sports aren't going to have full scholarships available. Division I football, Division I basketball, they'll have full scholarships. But for those coaches, sometimes they're handcuffed in terms of the amount of money they have each year. A Division I baseball program may only have 3 scholarships to offer to their 2021 class. And if they're trying to bring in 9, 10 guys, they don't always have the ability to go back to add more money to that scholarship. And that's also where grades are really important too, where maybe they can't give you more athletic money, but they can go to the admissions office and get you more academic money, so kind of stack those scholarships. So again, a lot of fine tuning to that, but just know that the longer you wait, the less scholarship money those coaches are even going to have available in the first place.
That's 100% the truth. That was really the main case for most of the schools I talked to. Again, I think I had like 5 or 6 different offers, and most of the coaches said to me, this is what I can offer you, this is all I can offer you, this is all I have. And the majority of it was academic in my case. I had pretty good grades. I didn't have outstanding grades, not David Kamisic grades, but
Not many did.
But I was able to get a lot of academic scholarship as a result, and most of those coaches really didn't have any athletic scholarship to offer on top of that. So I think that's a huge key, is that the longer you wait, the less scholarship money there will be there for you.
Yeah, and again, we're talking higher levels. I mean, don't forget Division III schools have 0 athletic money available in any sport. So Division III is all academic based, all grant based. So again, the process of getting the scholarships is exciting, but it doesn't reduce the stress. It can cause even more problems and more issues. And again, for families that are going through this for the first time, it can be uncomfortable to have those conversations with coaches.
It's making me uncomfortable thinking about it right now. I'm stressed out. I've never been more stressed in my life. Well, that's maybe not true, but man, to that point, that was about as stressed as I've ever been.
So Christine says they have multiple offers for Division I soccer. Their number one choice. They need more money though. What's the best way to word "show me the money"? So how would you strategically word that in your?
Probably send them a GIF
wonderful...
of Jerry Maguire.
just
text them a GIF of Cuba Gooding Jr. saying, "Show me the money," and Tom Cruise saying it back.
Right. I think like Kyle said, and we talked about it, is this isn't a conversation that a coach is having for the first time, right? So I think if you handle it like Kyle so eloquently did as a teenage boy, just let the coach know, hey, we really like your school. Finances are going to be really important. We have a full offer. We have this amount of 80% of the school paid for by this school. Is there anything you can do to really,
to help out?
So to make it more worthwhile.
Yeah.
And again, I think too, that's going to give, I think, a good indication as to how badly does that school really want your student athlete. Because if they have like a limit, maybe like, we'll give her 50%, but we're not willing to give her 75, right? So again, it does give you an idea as to how badly that school is really coveting your daughter, your student athlete, your recruit.
Yeah, it also goes into play the stock you'll have in that program going forward from there. If they really are serious about you as a student athlete and you coming in and being an impact player freshman year, which I know I didn't want to go sit the bench freshman year, the more interested they are in you, the more likely you're going to have playing time that freshman year when you first get in there, versus they're not as interested.
Right. Maybe
you're not going to have the position you'd like. And I sounded like, can you maybe help me out with like some more money? That was 17-year-old Kyle. Not much different.
Sounds like someone else too. Great point.
That's wild.
It's wild. It's wild. I totally lost my train of thought with that impersonation, but that was awesome. And I think too, thinking about just the stage, the stage of kind of the luring process, right? As a coach, you're trying to lure this recruit in and build that relationship. The earlier you can start the process and build that relationship and have communication with that coach on a steady basis, that always helps too, because the longer they know that recruit, it's not someone that they just were introduced to a month ago and are trying to make that decision. So again, that's the importance of starting this process early. We're talking a lot about getting offers as juniors and seniors. The reality is kids are getting offered freshman year, sophomore year by Division I programs. Kids are doing things early on in the process to put themselves in a better position come junior, senior year to maximize scholarship opportunities. So the families that sometimes start this process later are the ones that are scrambling to find those opportunities because they maybe were just behind other kids who've been doing things 8th grade, freshman year to put themselves in a great spot once these scholarship opportunities really start to come in.
Yeah, you end up having to take whatever you can get. You really don't have much of an option there. They kind of have you hamstrung a little bit in that we've already done all these things. This is all I can offer you. So you really put yourself at a disadvantage. But like David said, there's 8th graders out there for baseball. I think there's about 15 8th graders, 2024 graduates who've already gotten offered scholarships and committed to the schools that they're going to be playing at in college. They haven't even started high school yet. And it really is a courting process. And the earlier you start, the more attributes you can see that are good within a school. You can compile a list. Yeah. You can say, these are all the things about this school I like, and these are all the detractors that I've come across over the last 2, 3, 4 years. And you can do that for every school. You don't have time to do that in just 1 month, 6 months, or even just a year in a lot of cases.
I can't stop thinking about your impersonation.
It was good, right? It was a really good 17-year-old Kyle.
It was ridiculous. I'm going to read a quote. I'm going to read a quote, and I'm going to ask you who said this. Okay. Don't look.
I'm not going to look.
Hey guys, we're absolutely thankful our son found you in 2017. He is now in his 2nd semester. Held a 3.3 during football season. Good luck to all the guys and girls this year. Without NCSA, our son would not have ever found his school.
I mean, that can only be one person. That can only be the great LaWanda.
LaWanda. Happy New Year, LaWanda. LaWanda's our number 1 fan. I'm glad your son's doing awesome academically as well, and we appreciate you tuning in. I got some questions rolling in, so let's stop doing impersonations and actually get to some...
Are you sure? Can we not just do that the rest of the time?
Probably not. Oh, okay. I think we'd get yelled at by Tom Union. BJ wants to know for track coaches with scholarships, they have to break them up. So again, track is one of the sports where it's very rare that you're going to get a full athletic scholarship. So they're giving you pieces of scholarships there. Can you leverage a preference school by using enrollment in ROTC that helps maybe reduce the tuition cost? So it's combining ROTC with a sport scholarship. How does that work?
That's a good question. I would say probably if they have some sort of ROTC scholarship, I should say, and they allow student athletes to participate in ROTC as well, and that can be another avenue of funds for you. Yeah, absolutely. That's just like any other scholarship that you can apply for as a student athlete. It's great. Coaches typically recommend, hey, apply for all these scholarships as well because they can potentially help you out. So yeah, absolutely. Any way that you can leverage yourself and show that coach or school that you can come there for less money for them and get more scholarship help, the more they're going to want you.
John wants to know, son's a junior in high school. Sounds like there's going to be an offer coming here in the next few days from a university he likes. Is there any reason to not accept an early offer?
Sure. Yeah, there's plenty of reasons. Is this the school he wants to go to?
So John said it's a school he likes.
He likes. So it's a school he likes. Is it his number one school? You guys haven't seen the offer yet. Is the offer going to be what you guys are looking for? Is it going to match your guys' expectations or hope for this? Are there other schools that he's still thinking about? Does he know where he's going to fit into this program? Does he know the stability of the coaches? Is it a winning program? So there's a lot of different factors. How many players are in his position at the school already? How many committed in his graduation class and the year above him? There's a lot of different factors that you can be looking at right now. Ultimately, if this is a school that you really like and he wants to go to and it's number one, that you get the scholarship offer you want, sure, no reason not to commit.
Yeah, and that's hard for us to again answer that again based on what is going to be important to your family, to your son. If that's the school that he wants to go to, then why play any games and tell the coach, yep, we're good to go. I think one of the things for a junior is that you do have to be careful. We didn't really talk about this, but the amount of coaching changes in college athletics can hurt kids because you can commit to a school and a coach, and then that coach leaves for another job, and all of a sudden you haven't signed your scholarship yet, and that other coach that comes in doesn't want to offer you. So there's a lot of variables to it. But again, if it's the school that your son really likes and you guys are confident in that, then knock it out. Christine wants to know what percentage of players take the first offer. We don't have a study, anything that's going to give
47%. No, we don't have any.
But I would guess it's very low, the amount of student athletes that accept their first offer. Again, typically if you get a first offer, there's usually more to come unless you are very late in the process and it's your only offer. But it's
which happens a lot as well.
Yeah, or you see kids, they get their first offer, they commit, and all of a sudden they get other schools interested in them and they decommit because they want to kind of feel out the rest of the
Which you don't want to do. That's a messy process.
Tracy's daughter is a junior playing volleyball. It's club season. They got a tournament this weekend. She feels super awkward speaking to college coaches. If they approach her this weekend, what would you suggest she ask or talk about?
That's tough. I feel that exact same way just talking to people generally. So I get where she's coming from, and I'm not a 16-year-old girl, though. I might feel
you do an impersonation
sometimes. I nailed the impersonation of it. But just have her be genuine. Maybe come up with a list of questions before this tournament of things you might want to ask. She can ask about the school. What majors do girls on the team take while they're at the school? What do people say they like about the program?
How did the team do in the fall?
Yeah, exactly. What do they do in the off season? Where do girls live? What coaching style do you have? What do you like in your players? What do you think I need to work on? Just ask that coach questions to learn about them. That's the biggest thing. Think about questions that you would maybe want someone to ask to learn about you, and flip the script. Ask that of them. Yeah,
and again, think about what's going to be important to her college decision. And if there's a certain major in mind or a certain location, how far away is it from wherever you guys live? A lot of things can be asked to there. Kenneth said they're receiving emails about applying to schools. What does that mean in terms of recruiting?
So good question, and probably we have to make a differentiation here that when coaches or when schools are sending you applications, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're being recruited at all. Those are very separate, and that's probably one delineation that maybe some don't understand is that applying to the school and trying out for the program, that's not really how college sports work at all. For most cases, it's not like high school where you go try out for the team. If you're just getting applications, I would say at this point, we need to start reaching out to those coaches at those schools to see where they're at in their process. Are they still looking for student athletes in this graduation class? What opportunities do they have? Really starting to parse out what the realistic opportunity of playing a sport that school might be.
Alice, yes, a class of 2021 prospect can accept a scholarship. You cannot sign your national letter of intent until your senior year, but you can verbally commit as an 8th grader, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Doesn't matter, but again, you can't put pen to paper for your NLI until your senior year. Heidi's son has been talking to D1 football coaches. He's only receiving preferred walk-on offers at great schools. A preferred walk-on is your offered a spot on the roster, but no scholarship money, just to kind of clarify that. Do schools offer after signing day, or when should he make a decision, even if it is committing to his dream school as a preferred walk-on? The thing with a preferred walk-on is there typically isn't a limit of preferred walk-ons that a school is going to have, so there's not necessarily a huge rush to say yes to that, unless the coach tells you otherwise. But if the student athlete does not get an offer after signing day, the odds of them getting one are probably slim, unless somebody who was already committed to that school backs out of the commitment and a scholarship opens up. Possibly could get a preferred walk-on to a scholarship, but again, if it's his dream school and financially it makes sense for your family and it's what is going to make him happy, then go for it. But again, if there's other schools that might be interested in your son, and I'm guessing there are, if a Division I program's offering him a preferred walk-on opportunity, it's hard for us to answer that. But again, the odds of him all of a sudden getting a scholarship from that school before freshman year of college is probably not very likely.
Yeah, and know what you're getting yourself into. If at the end of the day he just really wants to go to that school, then yeah, absolutely, that's understandable. But as a preferred walk-on at a Division I program, it's not going to be an easy road. I talked with someone who was a preferred walk-on at a Division I program just last week, and it wasn't what they wanted it to be. It wasn't what they thought it was going to be. It ended up not being a great experience. They ended up transferring after their freshman year because it just didn't go that well. Just knowing that there's probably going to be a few other preferred walk-ons, and then there's going to be first, second, third string in front of that as well, scholarship players. So just knowing that that's a hard road. It's not always that glorious. Obviously, we see every year there's someone who makes a kick, or in practice they give them a scholarship, randomly. But that's one out of maybe 1,000 preferred walk-ins that's happening to. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be maybe a little tougher road.
Dick, you can start utilizing our services for your student athlete at the age of 13. Once you become 13 years old, you can start a profile. So that's where we encourage student athletes. The earlier, the better. We got a few questions here, but we're running low on time, so let's try to speed around through these. Sophomore receiving several emails. Should you respond via email or phone?
Respond by email first, and then use and call as well. Do both. It's not going to hurt.
What about getting more money for private schools that are offering a kid for football at a Division III school?
They're going to have their own limitations on what they can offer scholarship-wise. They regulate themselves, so a lot of that's going to be based on your academics and what grant money, merit-based scholarship they can get. You'll have to have individual conversations with the coaches there.
Junior softball daughter, getting a lot of contact from coaches. When do coaches start talking money? Is it after she applies to the school and gets accepted, or when does the dollar amount really start in those conversations with offers?
Depends. Division I, they'll start talking immediately September 1st, scholarship money. It's sometimes even before that. Division III schools, like high academic, they may wait until you apply, or they may ask you to apply, but generally speaking, they're going to have those conversations way before you apply.
Marissa, you can absolutely leverage a 4.2 GPA, AP student, good ACT score. That's exactly the type of leverage and, again, thing that you should take advantage. Follow-up question from Marissa. If you are committed as a younger athlete, do they have to honor your scholarship, and do you have to stay with that school?
No and no.
Yep, verbal commitment is just that. You can back out of it at any point, and certainly they can take away the scholarship, which typically they won't do. It's a bad look, but certainly does happen. All right, let's get to one more here. James' son is going to school for an official visit. They have what he wants to study. He has a high GPA. It's a D2 school. They can offer partial football scholarship and possibly full academic scholarship, ? Or so for Division II schools, what can they offer?
Yeah, so they can stack them and have partial academic and partial athletic and combine them together to to make a full ride scholarship. And then some Division II schools actually don't stack their scholarships, meaning they won't have athletic and academic. In that case, it sounds like that may be the situation here. If they're giving you a full ride academic scholarship versus a half ride athletic scholarship, I would take the full ride academic scholarship personally. And as long as you have that roster spot still on the team, it sounds like that's the case. That's not a bad thing.
Right, for sure. Cool. Sorry if we didn't get to all the questions. Had a lot of great ones here, but we're running up against the clock here, and want to wrap it up like we always do by recognizing some of our recent commitments. So again, student athletes that have utilized the NCSA network and connected with college coaches and have made their collegiate decisions. So we'll start in the lacrosse world. Siblings, Carly and Ashley
Aisley or Ashley?
Ashley Roth from Grand Valley State, or committing to Grand Valley State, which is a Division II school, I believe, in
high-level Division II
Michigan. Journey Zito.
Barry's daughter.
I don't know that's a fact.
That's
I think it's
probably not
speculation.
Sorry, Journey.
Softball student athlete committing to Neosho County Community College, and also on the softball side, Taylor Wise committing to Williams College. So again, if you don't follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we post the commitments from some of our student athletes, and had 25,000 plus in the 2019 class, and expecting to break that number in 2020. So again, if you ever have any questions about your student athlete, individually DM us, send us a message on Facebook, let us know, and we'd be more than happy to reach out to you to make sure that your specific student athlete is on the right path. Again, this is one of a million topics we could have talked about in recruiting, and we were at 35 minutes.
Probably
and
could have kept going.
Could have kept going for another hour. So again, there's a lot that goes with scholarships and all this sort of stuff, but getting that information, that education is what we're here for. So again, if you have any questions, certainly reach out to us. Just a heads up too, tomorrow night we're going to have a special Facebook Live. It's going to be really a Q&A with Danny Koenig, one of our senior recruiting coordinators, Division I collegiate swimmer, collegiate coach at the D3, D1 level, and then Jamie Dufek, who is our director of softball, Division I softball player at Drake University, goes throughout the country, does a lot of softball events. So the two of them will be hosting a question and answer segment on Facebook Live and CSA Live, so through YouTube, all the different channels, from 7 p.m. Central till they run out of breath and time. So be sure to tune in, check that out. We're back here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central. Next week's topic is going to be a good one, talking about how to contact college coaches, which is the first step oftentimes in the path to getting that scholarship.
You send them a GIF saying, "Show me the money."
Don't do that.
Asked and answered.
That's
next week.
Don't do that. But thanks for hopping on again. A lot of great questions, a lot of great information. Again, check out our recordings from the previous 2 weeks. We talked more about scholarships and the different kinds. But again, if you ever have any questions individually, this is what NCSA is here for, to help student athletes, help families navigate this process, and make sure that hopefully you're signing that NLI and not having a ton of college debt.
Get that money paid for.
See you next week.